wondered what your rights are at work, in particular under this proposed Employment Rights Bill, then stick around, because recent developments in Parliament suggest that things are shifting in ways that could have a major impact on workers, employers, and frankly anyone interested in fairness at work. So, what's the headline? A mega poll of 45,000 voters has found that sweeping reforms in employment law, things like 0 hours, giving workers rights from day one, bolstering protection from unfair dismissal, are very popular among the public. Yet the catch, many people don't even know that these reforms are in the pipeline. Awareness is low. Meanwhile, the government is reviving the Employment Rights Bill, promising not to backtrack on core reforms including 0 hours, day one rights, compensation for cancelled shifts, and senior officials have said that there will be no watering down. Unions are urging Keir Starmer and the Labour leadership to make a populist case for these reforms, to bring them into public awareness, and in order to defend against business pressure and ensure it's not diluted. So, what sort of things are being talked about here? 0 hour contracts. The plan is to end most 0 hour contracts, or at least give employers a way to force them to give guaranteed hours. Secondly, day one protection from unfair dismissal. Under current law, in many cases, you have to wait up to 2 years before having the right to claim unfair dismissal. This would change. Thirdly, compensation for cancelled shifts. Rights around shifts, predictability, penalties for cancelling shifts at short notice or without fair compensation is quite high in the priority list. And sick pay from day one. This is something that's under discussion. These aren't small tweaks, people, and if implemented robustly, they shift the balance towards workers. Of course, as an employment solicitor, I see a few key issues to watch here. Firstly, secondary legislation and loopholes. The devil's always in the detail. And things like how cancelled shifts are actually called guaranteed hours or expectations for these, it all depends on secondary regulations. Next, there's inevitably going to be pushback and political pressure. Some of the business community may argue that such changes increase cost, reduce flexibility, or actually just make hiring riskier. And third, what about the implementation and enforcement? Laws on paper are one thing, enforcement is another. Labour protections are only meaningful if workers know their rights and if there are accessible, effective routes to enforce them. And also, public awareness matters. Next, potential unintended consequences. So, flexibility in the labour market is often cited for things like 0 hours, but changes should consider impact on small businesses, gig economy workers, sectors with seasonal demand, like the hospitality sector. So what should you, either as a worker or an employer, be thinking right now? If you're a worker, keep up to date on what your rights could be soon. If the bill passes, you may gain rights you currently lack, like day one protections, for example. Document your contract type, hours worked, shift cancelled, etc. If disputes arise, having records helps. And seek advice early. If you think you're being treated unfairly, especially in sectors that rely heavily on 0 hours or variable contracts, speak to an employment solicitor. If you're an employer, plan for compliance. Even if the law isn't final yet, very likely you're going to need to adapt your practices, contracts, policies, scheduling, everything. And consider the cost and the benefit. Predictability, prevention, and fairness have a big impact in terms of what else you could be paying. Review your contracts. Law firms like mine at Magara Law, we give retainer advices for our employer clients. Set fee per month for unlimited legal advice, subject to 1 or 2 exceptions to that. Have robust enforcement mechanisms. There are accessible tribunals or other routes, penalties for non-compliance that are meaningful, and you need to be really aware of these. There's going to be protection across all sectors. No cliff edges, no cliffhangers, especially for the gig, casual, 0 hour, part-time seasonal workers. And so to wrap this up, this Employment Rights Bill could be a significant overhaul for workers' rights in a generation. The public supports it, the government's promising it, but whether it delivers in full depends on political will, legal drafting, and public vigilance. If you care about employment law, whether as a worker or employer or HR professional, or simply someone who believes in fairness, keep a close eye on this. Here's what you can do for now. Like this video if you found it useful, subscribe to Magara Law for updates on how this bill progresses, share this video with colleagues, friends, representatives, you name it, who might not know what is proposed. Drop your questions in the comments below or your experiences. I'll be reading them, I'll be answering them, and happy to do a follow-up Q&A or deep dive in your company. Thanks for watching and stay tuned. I'll be bringing more analysis on amendments, case law, and what this means in practice as it unfolds.